YouTube, Ninja Midget here with a complete teardown of the Ruger 2245 target pistol. Now this is the original one. This would be the Mark 1. There she is. But this will also cover the Mark II, the Mark III, the Mark IV. They're all basically the same gun. There might be a few little differences here and there, but this is a tricky gun to take apart and put together, so I wanted to do a video of this because I have a hard time every time I take this apart. This isn't like a 1911 where after you've taken it apart a few times, it's just, second nature. This is really tricky, and if you don't do some things in a specific order, you can really damage the gun. So the first thing you do is the field strip on the gun. For that, I'm going to pull this out. First of all, getting ahead of myself. Make sure the gun's clear. And this is very important. You always drop the hammer on this. If you try to take this out without dropping the hammer, you can very easily get this jammed up in here, and you'll need to break something to get it out, is basically what will happen. It will not come undone without breaking something. So, after you drop the hammer, you lift this up. You're just going to pull straight down. It's going to pull right out of there. This is not meant to be taken apart. These are press fit in, so this, even when they re-blue it, they don't take it apart. So, this is one of those things that needs to stay together. Just clean it in that configuration. Your bolt comes out, and then you push forward slightly on the barrel, and it's just going to lift straight out. And that is your field strip. And that's what's got you good for cleaning. That is not the purpose of this video. There's a ton of field strip videos out there, but there are no videos that take everything apart. I am taking everything apart in this video. So let's get on to the next step. Okay, our next step is going to be taking the bolt apart, which is pretty simple. It's a little tricky on the extractor, but pretty straightforward for the most part. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to just pop this pin out, or this spring out. This is not meant to be taken apart any more than this. It is actually press fit in here. So you're going to just set that aside, and then you're going to take out your firing pin. That's real easy. You just push this pin out. It's not in there real tight. And then your firing pin is just going to fall out with the spring. And this little retainer with the spring, it goes in this orientation. Here's the, get this in the camera here. Here's the firing pin head. This spring goes in right like this, with that little area down like that, and that catches inside the bolt. This little tab does, and that's what provides your spring pressure to return this. So there's your firing pin out. Now, for your extractor, excuse me, this is a little tricky. You can see in here, let me focus it a little bit closer. Oops. You can see how there are two pieces in here. There's the extractor up on this side, and then there's this pin, and the spring is behind it in here. What you want to do is you're going to need a little tool like this jeweler's screwdriver, and I'm going to focus this out a little bit. You want to get something inside there, and you're going to pull that pin back. You're going to hold it under the tension, and once you get it back far enough, this is the part that's a little tricky. You're going to be able to get that out of there. Sometimes it might be necessary, and this is hard because if this thing shoots out, it's going to go across the room on me. Try to get that back. See if I can get my extractor to fall out here. Nope. This is tricky. I might end up taking a lot of this out, but you're basically, once you get this pin back here, you're going to be able to just tilt the extractor up and out. And it's a little tricky, but once you get it out, it's not too bad. It's one of these things where you wish you had 3 hands. Ah. Ah, there she comes. There it is. Now, once that starts coming out, you want to make sure that you have the front of this covered, because if this thing launches, you're never going to find it again. Okay, so there's your plunger, there's your spring, and there is your bolt completely disassembled. This was the only tricky part. It's a little tricky to get it back together too, because it's going to go in right like this. See if I can get this on camera here. It's going to go in right like that. So it is a little tricky to get it lined up and back together, I know from experience, but it is doable. Okay, so there's your extractor, your plunger, and your spring, and your completely disassembled bolt. Okay, one additional note on how I handle things, because I take guns apart a lot. I came up with a system that works for me. You may do it a different way. I'm just showing how this works for me. Generally, as I get a part apart, like the bolt here, I have generally 2 sizes of bags. I have this larger size bag that'll hold everything for a certain project, and then I have these smaller bags, and what these all will do is I will put components that are in the same area on the same piece in one of these little baggies, so that I know that everything that I need for my bolt is going to be right in here. Just throw them all in there, zip that closed. And what I'll do is I'll put parts like the bolt, don't need to really separate that, I'll put that in here, but I'll put these parts in this larger baggie as well to keep them separate. And it makes it a lot easier when you're putting a gun back together, if you got a lot of pins that might be a little similar but not quite. So that's just a little of how I manage these projects when I'm doing something like this. Okay, now it's time to take apart the frame. Not sure if this camera's gonna catch that in the background, but that noise that you might hear is my son's Hot Wheels track. He's homesick from school today, so it's too annoying. I'll just re-record this portion. The first thing you want to start with on this is your top pin right here. This is going to be your hammer spring. Let me make sure I'm focused right here. There we go. And that just pushes out. Doesn't matter which direction it goes in. Going to push that out, and then you're going to be able to lift up your hammer and your trigger bar just like this. And now your hammer, focus this in a little closer here, your hammer has this bushing in this side, and this goes in this way. This is the way your hammer is actually in the gun. So you have a bushing on this side that just slides out for cleaning. This strut is machine press in here. It's machine pressed, so you do not want to do anything with that. Just leave that alone. And then up in here you can see this right here is your plunger for your trigger spring. That just lifts right out. And then right in here you've got your trigger spring. Lifts right out also. Now, the next thing you want to take out, I'm not sure if you can see in there, let me get a flashlight here. Right down in there. That is your sear. This right here is your sear. And you can see there's a spring on the side of that. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to push out your sear pin, which is right on this side. Push it straight out. And your sear is going to fall right out. Oh, didn't come out all the way. Come on. Okay, there's the sear and the spring. And let me show some of the functionality of this right here. Get this together. This how your sear functions. The spring goes on just like this, and this spring tension keeps pushing this forward. So that's how that goes on. Okay, and with that, your safety is going to fall out with your detent in here. I believe that detent does come out when you're cleaning it. Something to watch for. Yep, it jumps out on you, and there is a little spring in there. So when you're taking this apart to clean, I'm just doing this for instructional purposes. This is already a pretty clean gun. Watch for these detents, and there's springs that may come out. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take out our trigger pin, and that's just this guy right here. And this does have a spring that's holding it in there, kind of a spring piece of steel there. So you give it a light tap, and it comes on out, and there you go. And then your trigger is just going to lift straight out with your trigger bar. And this is it. There's your trigger bar, and then your, let me get this on camera here, your disconnector is right here. Or this isn't your disconnector, this is your slide stop, excuse me. That is going to just, you rotate it forward and it pops right out. Now on your, let's see if I can get this spring right here, that is what's putting tension on your magazine release. So what you want to do is you want to get inside there with a little screwdriver or something. You're going to want to lift that up, and that's going to pop out. And then that was retaining your magazine release. So that's that. That's actually not the spring that was giving it spring tension. That's the spring that was holding it in place. What gives it spring tension is this little detent here. So there's a spring underneath there that just lifts straight out. And there's the spring for it. And just go straight back in that way. So there you have it. Now on some of the models, this just has the grips that are molded in here. On some models, there are screwed on grips. You do need to take those off to disassemble this. But that is pretty much it. Most of these guns, the Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV, are going to be very similar in functionality, with maybe little differences like whether or not yours has grips or not. But that's the frame disassembled. Comes apart easy, a little tricky to put together. I'll be doing a video on that as well. Okay, that is the complete disassembly of this gun, the Ruger 2245, and Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV variants. I'm not going to bother taking the rest of this off the sights. I mean, that's obvious. This is actually an aftermarket compensator that I put on. It just screws on in place of the front sight. And the ejector, get that on camera here, right here, that's just press fit in. So there's nothing else on the barrel and the receiver that needs to come apart. So that is it. You're completely taken down 2245 Ruger. Thanks for watching.